She held the child. The fire raged behind her, and the only man who could save them both was the one she swore to destroy. "Hello, FM. It's Mr. Brian Tails again. Not damaged. Not bruised. Gone. Smoke swallows what fire hasn't finished, and the ground beneath Phoebe's knees is still warm. She doesn't move. She can't. Leo is pressed against her chest, his small fingers white-knuckled around a brown teddy bear with one loose button eye. He hasn't cried. That worries her more than anything. Behind them, the ruins of the schoolhouse still crackle. A tank crawls past in the distance, its headlights cutting through the haze like slow, blind eyes. Phoebe counts her coins. 9 silver. Enough for nothing. She pulls Leo tighter. That's when she feels it, a shift in the air. Not wind. Presence. Someone standing behind a broken wall. Close enough to touch but still hidden in the dark. The smoke parts just enough for her to see him. Tall. Broad-shouldered. A rifle slung low across his chest. A jaw that hasn't softened in 3 years. A face she once trusted with everything, and never forgave for leaving. Conrad von Ehrenhard. He doesn't speak. He never did. Not when it mattered. He just stands there, watching her with those flat, unreadable eyes. The same one that looked at her one last night before he disappeared and took her entire world with him. Leo glances up. His gaze drifts past Phoebe, to Conrad, then back again. The boy tilts his head, studying the soldier the way children study storms. Phoebe's jaw tightens. She doesn't need him. She doesn't want him. But the road out is behind him, and the fire is closing in. Phoebe moved first. She always did. She grabbed Leo's hand, small, freezing, trusting, and pushed past Conrad without a word. He didn't stop her. He fell into step behind, silent as smoke, and that silence was the worst part. It filled every crack in the conversation she refused to have. They ran. The road out of the village was a ruin of mud and debris, lit by scattered fires still burning along the rooftops. Leo stumbled twice. Both times, Conrad's hand shot forward, catching the boy's shoulder before Phoebe could react. She didn't thank him. She didn't look back. Then they heard it. Footsteps. Organized. Military. A French patrol, maybe 30 meters behind. Conrad's hand closed around her wrist, firm, commanding, and pulled her sideways into the shadow of a collapsed wall. Leo pressed his face into the teddy bear. Phoebe bit her tongue until it bled, holding her breath as boots thudded past, inches from where they crouched. 30 seconds. An eternity. When the footsteps faded, Conrad released her. His grip left marks she wouldn't look at. "There's a cart," he said. First words. Low, rough clipped. 1/4 mile north. And is with it. Phoebe turned. And something flickered in his face. Too fast a name. "My daughter," he said, and nothing else. Phoebe stared at him. The man who vanished without a trace now stood here with a child and a rifle, pulling her out of flames like it was routine. She wanted to scream. Instead, she gripped Leo's hand tighter and started walking. North, toward whatever came next. 2 broken people in a broken cart, and the silence between them louder than the war. The cart was barely holding together. 2 wheels, a splintered flatbed, and a single gray horse that looked as tired as everyone riding it. And there, wrapped in a threadbare blanket in the back, sat Anne. She was small, maybe 6 or 7, dark-haired. Still, her eyes were open but distant, watching the world without trusting it. When Phoebe climbed up beside her, the girl didn't flinch, didn't speak, didn't move, just shifted her gaze, slowly, to Leo and his teddy bear, and something in those quiet eyes softened, just barely. Conrad took the reins. His back was a wall. Phoebe sat behind him, close enough to see the tension locked in his shoulders, but far enough to pretend she wasn't there. Leo leaned against her, and leaned toward Leo. Neither child spoke, but something passed between them, small, wordless, warm. The cart creaked forward into the dark. Minutes passed, then hours. The road narrowed. The fires fell behind. The cold came in sharp, deliberate, as if the night itself was punishing them for surviving. Phoebe wrapped her arms around both children and stared at the back of Conrad's head. 3 years. 3 years of silence. 3 years of replaying the night he left. No note, no explanation, just an empty chair and a life that caved in without him. And now he sat 4 feet away, alive and breathing and acting like none had happened. She opened her mouth, closed it. Not yet. The road stretched ahead, dark and endless, and the weight of everything unsaid pressed down on them all like snow. Dawn didn't arrive so much as bleed in, gray and reluctant, like it didn't want to see what the night had done. They stopped at a stream. Conrad checked a horse. Phoebe filled a canteen, keeping her back to him, keeping her breathing steady. Leo sat on a flat rock, turning the teddy bear over in his hands, inspecting it like it held secrets, and drifted toward him. She sat beside him, not close, not touching, and watched the teddy bear with those quiet, serious eyes. Leo glanced at her. She didn't look away. He held up the bear, offered it, silently, the way children offer things that matter, and his hand reached out, stopped. Then, gently, she touched one paw. That was it. No words. No grand moment. Just a hand on a paw, and a breath neither of them took back. Phoebe watched in the canteen, and something tight in her chest loosened, just slightly. These two had lost everything, and here they were, finding a single thread to hold on to in each other. She glanced at Conrad. He was watching too. His face was unreadable as always, but his eyes, for one unguarded second, were soft, almost wounded, like he recognized something in that small, silent exchange that he'd lost long ago. Their gazes met. Phoebe looked away first. She busied herself refilling the canteen, her jaw tight, her heartbeat louder than it should have been. The children had found their bridge. Hers was still on fire. The stream kept running. The gray sky offered nothing. They moved on. The inn was barely a building. 4 walls, a smoking hearth, and a woman behind the counter who asked no questions as long as the coins kept coming. Phoebe handed over 3 of her 9. The woman handed back a key and a look that said, "Don't stay long." 1 room, 1 bed, 1 night. The children fell asleep fast. Leo curled on one side and tucked against him, the teddy bear between them like a bridge. Phoebe sat on the edge of the bed, boots still on, watching them breathe. Conrad sat across the room on a wooden chair, elbows on his knees, head bowed. The fire crackled. "You want to know why I left?" His voice was flat. Not a question. Phoebe didn't turn. "No." A beat of silence. "My wife was dying." He said anyway. The words landed like a stone in still water. Phoebe went rigid. She didn't speak. He continued, slow, careful, like he was pulling something broken from his own chest. "She made me promise. To stay. To raise Anne. To disappear from everything. From you. So no one would use her against me while she still had weeks left to live." The fire popped. Sparks drifted up and died. "You left me a monster," Phoebe whispered. Her voice cracked, and she hated it. "I know. Nothing else. No excuse. No plea." Phoebe stared at the sleeping children, at Anne, who had no mother, at Leo, who had no one. She didn't forgive him. Not yet. The wound was too fresh, too deep, too perfectly shaped to ache. But for the first time, she understood the shape of it. She stopped seeing the villain. She started seeing the man. They changed routes at dawn. Conrad spread a batter map across the cart floor and traced a new path with one finger. Longer, harder, but further from the main French corridors. Friedrich's name kept surfacing in rumor and smoke. A commander hunting a list. Their list, the one Conrad carried, folded and hidden inside his coat like a second heartbeat. Phoebe watched him study the map, watched the way his brow creased, the way his hand trembled, just once. When the route crossed a river he clearly didn't want to cross. She'd spent 3 years building a version of Conrad in her mind. Cold, selfish, deliberately cruel. A man who threw her away because she wasn't worth the staying. That man was dissolving. In his place was someone Messier. Someone carrying a dead wife's promise and a daughter who couldn't speak, and a list that could get them all killed. Someone who had chosen silence not out of cowardice but out of love. Painful, impossible, suffocating love. She didn't say any of this, But when he folded the map and handed it back, their fingers brushed, and this time she didn't pull away. It lasted maybe half a second. Neither acknowledged it. Leo tugged her sleeve. Phoebe, and wants to know if bears have names. She almost laughed. Almost. Tell her his name is Thomas, she said softly, and, listening from behind, pressed her lips together in something that might have been a smile. Conrad caught it. His eyes moved to Phoebe, a question she didn't answer. The cart rolled on. The silence between them shifted. Quieter now. Less like a wound. More like a door, barely open. He didn't fight for himself. He fought because they were watching. They were stopped at dusk. Not by soldiers. By men, ragged, armed, desperate. Road bandits feeding on the war's chaos. 4 of them, blocking the path with broken rifles and hunger in their eyes. The horse whinnied. Leo grabbed Anne's hand. Phoebe's blood went cold. Conrad didn't move from the reins. Didn't reach for his rifle. Just sat there, straight back, jaw set, and let them come. The leader stepped forward. Scarred lip, missing teeth. He looked at the cart, at the children, at Phoebe, and then at Conrad. Something shifted in his face. Recognition, maybe, or fear. Von Ehrenhard, the man said, quietly. Conrad said nothing. He didn't need to. The name was enough. Conrad von Ehrenhard. The name carried weight across these roads. Not because of rank or title, but because of reputation. Stories that spread faster than armies. A man who had dismantled a bandit ring single-handedly in 11. A man who never begged, never bent. The leader studied him for a long, taut moment. Then he stepped back, waved his men aside. They passed through without another word. Phoebe exhaled. Her hands were shaking. Leo had buried his face in the teddy bear and sat perfectly still, watching Conrad's back like he was the only fixed point in the world. You could have fought them, Phoebe said, once they were clear. Conrad's eyes stayed on the road. Fighting them risked the children. 3 words. Simple. Final. The kind of answer that carried more weight than a battlefield. Phoebe looked at him, really looked, and said nothing. Some truths don't need a response. Dover was gray and green and impossibly quiet. The cottage sat at the edge of a cliff, small, salt-worn, with a garden that was more wild and tamed. Daisies grew where they weren't planted. The wind carried the smell of the sea instead of smoke. Leo ran barefoot across the grass, chasing something only he could see, and watching from the doorway, a quiet smile finally living on her face. Admiral Whitfield had come through. The rescue, the passage, the paperwork that said, "You are safe now." He'd shaken Conrad's hand, looked at the children, looked at Phoebe, and said nothing that needed saying. Friedrich was gone, captured at the coast, the spy list delivered, the war's ugly machinery grinding forward without them. Phoebe stood at the kitchen window, drying a cup she'd already dried twice. The morning light fell across her hands, steady, unhurried. The scar on her cheek had faded to a thin silver line. She barely noticed it anymore. Footsteps behind her. Familiar now, not threatening. Not unwanted. Conrad set 2 cups on the table. Tea. Simple. Quiet. He stood beside her at the window. They watched the children, Leo showing in how to skip a stone, failing beautifully, laughing in a way that sounded like proof of something. The silence between them was different now. Not a wound. Not a door. A home. Phoebe turned to him. He turned to her. And for the first time since the smoke and the fire and the broken village where this all began, she held his gaze and didn't look away. "Thank you," she said. 2 words. Enough. The daisies kept growing. "Sure. Here it is. Clapperboard conclusion/outro script. And that is where their story finds its peace. From the fire, from the smoke, from a man she swore she'd never forgive, to a quiet cottage in Dover, where daisies grow where they weren't planted, and 2 children who had nothing finally have everything. Phoebe didn't just survive the war. She survived herself. And Conrad? He didn't just protect them. He earned something he never thought he deserved again. A second chance. Now, Before you go, I need to ask you something, and I genuinely want to hear what you think. Speech balloon, do you think Phoebe would have survived without Conrad? Or was she strong enough to carry Leo out on her own? Speech balloon, and here's the one that's been sitting with me. When Conrad told Phoebe the truth about his wife, did that moment make you forgive him? Or did it make you angrier? Speech balloon and one more. If you were Phoebe in that broken village, holding Leo with the fire behind you, would you have taken Conrad's hand? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one. Seriously, every single one. Now, if this story made you feel something, if it gave you chills, if it made your chest tight, if you found yourself rooting for two broken people in a broken cart, then you already know what to do. Thumbs up, hit that like button. It takes 1 second, and it tells me you want more stories like this. Bell and smash that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Because I have stories coming to this channel that will leave you completely speechless. Stories that will keep you up at night. Stories you won't be able to stop thinking about. This is Mr. Brian Tales, and we are just getting started. See you in the next one.